Hey everybody, I haven't done one of these in a while because I haven't been able to find an asset that really intrigued me that was worthwhile, better than any of the 10 things that I currently hold. So without further ado, let's jump into this one. This is, should I buy Fantom? And I hope you like the content. If you're not subscribed, do it! Anyway, you can always unsubscribe, as they say. Now let's just look at all this good stuff. As usual, I'm going to go through a very detailed step-by-step process, analyze the heck out of this, and make detailed price predictions, a little bit of TA, and a conclusion at the end. And this one was a hard one. But anyway, you guys have been asking for this for the longest time. And it's a great day in the markets. So as usual, let's go. Math, money, freedom, and this is not investment advice. What this means is at the end of this, if I say I buy it, doesn't mean you should buy it. You should do your own research. Anyway, let's go. For those who are new to the channel and have never seen one of my Should I Buy videos, I go through a 10-step process. I look at what it does, how it ranks, will it disrupt an industry, value props, technology, tokenomics, ecosystem, growth and longevity, risks, very important, and finally price predictions, the piece you all love. And my price predictions tend to be very conservative, but also very accurate. So anyway, let's see how this goes. So first of all, what does it do? Well, Fantom is a layer 1 blockchain that uses a single consensus layer to support the creation of multiple execution chains. The network independent consensus layer is called Hitches, and it features a novel consensus mechanism developed by Fantom dubbed the Hitches protocol. Probably butchered that. Anyway, Hitches can provide security to multiple other layers, the first of which is Fantom's EVM compatible smart contract chain called Opera, and I'll walk you through this architecture in a little while. But the project's goal really is to host an ecosystem of execution layers while enabling efficient transactions due to the benefits provided by this Hitches protocol. So it sounds like a mouthful, but that's the piece you need to know. Now, a little bit of the history and background. This was founded in 2018 by a South Korean computer scientist, Dr. An Byung-ik. Smart fellow indeed. He's based in South Korea. They released the Fantom testnet in December 2018. Mainnet launched in December 2019. And it was a little bit about 2 quarters later than expected. And it is ABFT, which is asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, and proof of stake mechanism within this particular chain. But we'll go into a lot more detail. So first of all, where does it rank? This is very interesting. Currently it's ranked number 32 from all cryptos. Year-to-date return is a crazy 15,600%. It's one of the top performers this year. Now, the market cap is 6.8 billion. It's about a tenth the size of Cardano. And Ethereum is 78 times larger. So that'll come in important later, and I'll show you why when we go to our pricing models. So the Fantom ecosystem has 2 very strong segments, and they are the AMM DEX and the yield aggregator platform. And this is where they really scale very well and do incredibly well, and why they've grown so fast. Some names you may know, like SpookySwap and Geist. But let's talk more about some of the value props of this particular chain. So first of all, it's a high throughput, scalable, fast, inexpensive layer 1 that can serve as an Ethereum load balancer. Think Matic to some extent. And Fantom will be one of the new leaders in the cross-chain revolution. And the recent release of their multi-chain.xyz, which is a decentralized cross-chain bridge, ushers in a new era in DeFi. So it is super exciting. And users can now simultaneously swap digital assets between Ethereum and Fantom. And that is the future. All future chains must be interchain operable as they go forward. Now, let's talk a bit about the technology real fast. I kind of hinted at the beginning, but the architecture is comprised of 3 parts. You got the core layer, which is the Opera chain, which includes the Hitches protocol and the DAG. Remember, it's like Hedera is a DAG as well, means it's very fast and efficient. The middle layer includes the virtual machine and other functions. And the application layer will host decentralized apps. The Opera chain is the main chain in the DAG as we go forward. So, enough technology details. So let's talk about speed. In terms of speed, They claim they can handle 300,000 transactions per second, but can they really? So theoretically, they say if each node can create an event block every 0.1 seconds, we try to get this right, and each node can create 7 to 10 events per block per second. Let's assume 7 per second at the lowest. And assuming that each transaction is 260 bytes, a single event block can include about 440 transactions. And assuming that, and with an infinite number of nodes, you can actually hit that 300,000 mark. But in reality, we're not sure of the exact scale, but the stuff that I've researched says it's somewhere between 4,500 transactions per second and 20,000 transactions per second. Note some of these competitors. Cardano is about 258 transactions per second. EOS about 10,000. And again, the scalability is yet to be verified. Meanwhile, Ethereum 2.0 will have sharding in their capability sometime middle of next year. And the sharding involves breaking up the network into smaller little shards, little pieces of glass, imagine it like that. And they allegedly will be able to do 100,000 transactions per second. Remember, today, Solana handles 50,000 transactions per second, but craps out at 400,000 transactions per second, as we found out a month or so ago. Anyway, that's the speed, and speed is very important. What's also very important in this whole trilemma world, beyond speed, is security and decentralization. In terms of the security, I just dumped them both on this page here. Ethereum has a long and proven track record, but they are moving to proof of stake. And some people are concerned that there will be some big bag holders that will have a lot of influence over the network. Fantom's Hitches does seem to have a stronger fundamental thanks to its leaderless approach. It is unique, it's very smart, and I think they may have the edge from a security point of view over Ethereum. Now, when you look at decentralization, it's a little bit concerning here. When you look at Fantom, they only have 47 validators on the network. If you saw my video on Sunday, I analyzed the importance of validators around how decentralized the protocol is. So it really isn't very decentralized. So security, yes. Decentralization, not so good. But let's keep on going, see what else we can dig up. Tokenomics. So a total of about 3.175 billion Fantom was initially issued. And that is the entirety of the supply, including staking rewards, which was issued at launch. About 40% was allocated to the public and private sale investors, including some bonuses. And the Fantom tokens have no vesting schedule. 15% was allocated to advisors with a 3-month lockup. And I think the founders had a 24-month vesting period with a cliff. And that's all behind us now. And about 3.6% was allocated to strategic reserve. And that's kind of it. Now, the daily expected distribution is set at about 682,425 Fantom until 2024. So that is a little bit inflationary. And again, we'll take that into account when we look at the pricing model later as well. So let's look at a couple of things. When we ran them through our models, we have the crypto compendium, which looks at things like centralization, tokenomics, inflation, regulatory risk, etc. And then we have a second model called the SCP Profiler, which is a smart contract platform profiler. And the first thing on the compendium, it scores about 5.4, which is basically the bottom 54th percentile of the top 300 cryptos. And if you compare that to Ethereum, that scored 9.4 in that model. When you look at the SCP Profiler, Ethereum scores a 7. This is not perfect because it has some scalability issues and gas issues, etc. But Fantom scores a 3.4. So they got a little bit hammered. And the overall composite score ranks Fantom number 11 out of the top 20 smart contract platforms. So it's even behind Cardano based on our modeling. And again, models are models. They just give indicators. They don't really reflect on price, but they do give you some information that is important to things like regulatory risk and centralization, inflation, and tokenomics, and all that stuff, and the amount of dApps built, TVL, growth rates, etc. on the SCP Profiler. So they are important, and they've been working very well for us so far. Now, some other numbers here. You'll see this was another thing that looks at the amount of TVL, which is extremely impressive. And some other data, the number of smart contracts deployed, over 12,000. So this thing is really taking off. It's been super successful, but there's more. So let's go a little bit further. One of the cool ratios that is important to look at is the market cap divided by the total value locked. Here, you can see the clear winner is Chainlink at 0.19. Fantom is number 2 with a ratio of 1.4. Avalanche number 3, 1.75, Terra, etc. You'll see Solana is down the bottom at 4.38. But again, it's just a ratio. Ethereum is about 3. But it's important when you have a large amount of TVL locked up with a relatively small market cap, it's going to go big. But when you're, say, a $500 billion asset, it's hard to get that amount locked up as fast. So, the bigger you get, the less the more this ratio will become over time. But it's an interesting one to look at. Now, this is an interesting piece from the block. They looked at the TVL in the Fantom ecosystem. A lot of it, all of it, actually, to some extent, was driven by Geist. And Geist offers, the reason we look at inflation is very important, extraordinarily high inflation rewards in the form of the Geist token. And this drove a lot of TVL because people wanted to kind of stake and get access to this reward that they think is a reward, but really it makes the asset perform very poorly. Think of it as liquidation. That's why I hate inflation. Now, there was a lot of negatives regarding this very aggressive incentive scheme. And in some ways, Geist's launch strategy paid off so far. It brought a lot of TVL into the Fantom ecosystem, which made it score very well in their SCP profiler and got a lot of people's attention. But it is beginning to lag right now and fall off. Now, the second largest protocol, I think, was SpookySwap. And that is better run, but significantly smaller. And we'll see. We'll monitor this very carefully. Was Geist a one-off? Is it all going to drag away over time? We'll see. But that was a huge impact on the TVL within Fantom. Let's look at the investors. They have an impressive list of investors. In fact, Alameda Research, which is Sam Bankman-Fried's, etc. organization behind the scenes, they also put some money into them very recently. So they have a lot of investors behind them. Most of these investors, though, are from South Korea and Asia, so I'm not that familiar with most of them. And you don't see the likes of Andreessen Horowitz in there as well. But they do have a lot of investors, which is a good sign. Now let's look at their ecosystem and partnerships. This is mind-blowing for such a new chain and a small chain. They had tons and tons of partnerships all across the board. How real all of these are, I can't tell. But their logo chart is pretty impressive. And if you look at kind of their wallet relationships, their Oracle relationships, you name it, all across the board. The DeFi partnerships they have, very, very impressive. Over 200 financial institutions, etc., supported. They've also partnered with Fireblocks. They're integrated with a Coinbase wallet. They listed Fantom, I think, last month. Although the token isn't available on Coinbase Exchange, I'm going to talk about that later, what's coming up. But Fantom is also available on several other currency exchanges we'll also talk about. They've also partnered with Chainlink and The Graph, and they're doing real-world projects in countries like Pakistan, Tajikistan, and Afghanistan. They seem to like the stands for some reason. Unusual, a Korean company is working in that part of the world. We'll talk more about that too. So let's look at growth and longevity. 2 years since mainnet launch, and very, very impressive growth so far. So again, AMM DEXs and yield aggregator platforms are doing incredibly well, and that's a big part of their success. Let's talk about risks. Very important to look at risks as we go forward. So first of all, as a whole space, DeFi regulation could impact plays like Fantom because of their newness and their some level of centralization. So there is potential for some kind of DeFi crackdown that could have a knock-on effect on this smart contract platform. Also, Afghanistan, one of their real-world cases, obviously is now under control by the Taliban. I don't need to talk any more about that. They have had some technical hitches as well from their technology, and their technology is different from other blockchains, and it does allow transactions to be processed simultaneously. And scalability is in question. They are kind of cooking the books a little bit with that as well. They've had a couple of outages too. The most recent one, I think, was on February 25th when a couple of validators slowed down the rate of emissions and brought the thing to a grinding halt. I think it was 2 validators. And that's the problem when you only have 47 validators. If a couple go offline, it's game over. Now let's talk about more risks as well. One of the things I didn't like is the top 2 holders. Think of the top 2 owners own 20%. The top 8 have a combined 31%, and the top 83 have over 50% of the tokens. So that's not a good thing at all, by no stretch. Now let's look at price predictions. You guys love this. So I took all the top analysts that are in the space and analyzed their price prediction wallets. So if you look here carefully, you will see the top analysts, Trading Beasts, WalletInvestor, Digicoin, Gov.Capital, Long Forecast, were all kind of similar to some extent. And you can see they all have like 2021 targets around $3, $3.50, and 2022, again, similar again, with the exception of GovCap. They went up to $11 in 2026, which is kind of high on the high side. Then you have WalletInvestor. They were typically a little bit underpriced based on normal. Coinpedia in 2025 and CoinCora were completely ridiculous. So there's no point in really taking them into account, but if you do the math of $75 a token times the amount of supply, it becomes a very, very hefty market capitalization. So let's look at another cool thing is the chart. I like to analyze the technical analysis. Now, before I go to my price predictions, we'll look at this first. So as you can see, this has been a crazy year, up 15,000%. It was basically a blip at the beginning of the year. And it had explosive growth all the way up to $3.50, and now it's consolidating. Now, what I have done is it's currently at about $2.70, a little bit, $2.69 right now. And it has, when you look at the competitors like Polkadot, Ethereum, Solana over the last couple of days, the last week or so, for some reason, Fantom is incredibly weak. It is just languishing and it's flat. And that might be because it ran up too hard, too fast, too quickly. Now, if you look at the 50-day moving average, it's about $1.96. And the 200-day moving average is about 90 cents. So it shows you how high it's gone up so fast. So if I was to buy, in full disclosure, I haven't bought yet. I might wait till the conclusion at the end, but I would not pay above $2.21. That would be my entry point, which is actually at the 0.38 Fibonacci level. And I would also have to find a horse that I would swap out of my existing stable. So that is kind of the chart. But let's look at my pricing model where I think this could go. So first of all, if we look here, you can see I go out to 2030, and I base a lot of my methodology on the market cap of Ethereum and how much market share it could take from the market cap of Ethereum, because it is Ethereum-based protocol. And if it does succeed, it has to eat away at the Ethereum market share. So if for this model, I assume a 1% of Ethereum's market cap based on my Ethereum price prediction models. And that could take us to $4.14 this year. Again, assuming Ethereum does what I think it's going to do. And it's over halfway there, by the way, right now. And 2030 could take us all the way up to $28. Now, if they are blindly successful and they get 2% of Ethereum market capital, it could be a $50 token in the year 2030, $8 this year, and on and on. The more we go out, though, the more less likely it's going to be. So basically, I do have some confidence that it could be a $4.14 token at the end of this bull run, which could end Q1 next year. So let's talk about a couple of other things. You always get this question: where do I buy it? There's a couple of places you can get it. You can get it on places like Gemini, Uniswap, FTX outside the US, Crypto.com, 1inch, etc. So there's plenty of places you can buy it if you are looking for it. But let's now jump to my conclusion real fast. The best part. So this is going to be a three-part conclusion because there's a lot to digest with this particular chain. So first of all, conclusion part one. Fantom has taken its first steps with the DeFi marketplace to attract developers with a prize pool of about 370 million Fantom. So they were really incentivizing developers to come on board. And they have a bunch of hackathons, just like Polygon and Avalanche and Salo have as well. Now, the Fantom ecosystem has two strong segments. I mentioned the AMM DEX capability. And as a yield aggregator platform, they crush it in these two areas, considering they're so small. But they have a lot of work to do in some other areas as well. So up to now, they haven't been that successful in areas such as NFTs and launchpads and GameFi, etc. They haven't been able to bring as many developers on board into that area yet. But again, the key highlight here is they are fifth largest TVL in the market and compatible with EVM, which makes it stand out from projects that want to implement a multi-chain platform. They're also doing a lot of great work with different economies as well, as we mentioned. Some of them run by some scary groups. So, conclusion part 2. This one of Fantom's biggest strengths may also be its biggest weakness. So, although Fantom has its blockchain and mainnet, all applications are built using Solidity and integrate with the Ethereum virtual machine. Basically, it's an Ethereum platform to a large extent. Fantom doesn't have their own proprietary software development kit, although they do have plans to release one, but we don't know when that's ever going to come. So for the time being, Fantom is therefore only a great complement to Ethereum, and its success is tied to the success of Ethereum. So we'll see where all this goes. But basically, the net of this is it an ETH killer? No, because it's like a little baby Ethereum. So it's not going to come out and kill the mothership. It can't right now. So that's a lot of people say, oh, Fantom's the next ETH killer. It's like, I don't see that happening. Third and final conclusion. So per our crypto compendium and the smart contract profiler composite score ranks, it's number 11 from the top 20 smart contract platforms. And the issues are speed, centralization, and inflation. And a couple more items as well. The upside still exists though, and I see Fantom easily capturing 1% of the ETH market cap despite some issues, and the potential to go to 2%, which would take it to between 4 and 750 this cycle if we are lucky. Fantom was overbought, it's consolidating now, and we'll see. And again, to reiterate per the chart, I would buy at 221, but not above. Now, there is one final thing I'd like to mention is the Coinbase effect. If they Coinbase dual list Fantom, of course it's going to go gangbusters. So if we do get close to that, try get in early. It's worth a speculative pitch. And again, this $2.70 token could go to $4.14 or more this cycle, but I did not buy. I like things to do a 3x for me to get involved, and I don't see this doing a 3x this cycle. So that is the conclusion. But if it does fall to 221, I'm in. So hope you guys like the content. That's a wrap for now. Fantom, let me know in the comments below what you want me to do next as well. All right. A big thank you, everybody. And thank you to everybody out there in the chat too. I'll chat with you guys now. Bye.